happening? Hey, YouTube. Good morning. Good morning. Hope everyone is well. We've had a lot going on over this weekend, and today you're going to get way more content in the podcast than you are right now. We have some amazing guests about to join us on the Lurie Daniel Favors Show here on SiriusXM's Urban View. First up, as I mentioned to Urban View, we are going to have Rick Martin on, and we are declaring Mondays, or at least every other Monday anyway, Mogul Mondays. We've been talking a lot about the fact that as Black people, we are going to have to get very used to the idea that some of us going to have an entrepreneurial situation. Side hustles going to have to increase and become increasingly more like central hustles than side hustles. But how do you do that, right? How do you go about creating not just a good business idea, but how do you execute it? Well, Rick and I are going to be walking our audience through those steps. And Rick is our amazing friend and partner from DigiDrop LA. He's been on the show multiple times. Every single one of you who have supported theglobalmajority.com, you are aware of the work that Rick does. But we are going to be really walking us through a series of conversations about everything you need to be aware of when it comes to creating a healthy business, being able to profit from that business, understanding basic concepts like break even, understanding what it looks like to have to think not just in terms of profit, but in terms of direction, in terms of protecting your brand, in terms of cultivating and developing an identity. So many things that we have to consider, so many things that go into not just a side hustle, because sometimes we treat our side hustle like a side hustle. And I need us to get busy doing the business of treating side hustles like they might be our most important things. And a lot of you are living lives right now where frankly that is the case. And if that was unexpected for you, I'm sorry. But for those for whom you were paying attention when we talked about Project 2025, you have been ready. And today we are kicking off Mogul Monday so we can continue those conversations in depth. We will, of course, take calls at 866-801-8255. And those of you who do not have SiriusXM, when the interviews with Rick come out, you'll be able to watch them on YouTube. So we got something for everybody. We're going to make sure that people have what it is that they need. We just have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure I run through at least a couple of these stories that you all are aware as to what's going on. And then again, later on today, the podcast episode, Lurie Breaks It Down. We'll have all of these conversations way more in depth. First up, George Hardy, who was the last of the Tuskegee Airmen's World War II combat pilots, made his transition and died at the age of 100. We've already acknowledged the passing of the amazing Assata Shakur, whose words we read for today's moment of gratitude. So she and he are now making their way to the ancestral realm. Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy was one of the original Tuskegee Airmen and the last of the group's World War II combat pilots. And his legacy, according to Leon Butler, who's the national president of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated, they said his legacy is one of courage, resilience, tremendous skill, and dogged perseverance against racism, prejudice, and other evils. We are forever grateful for his sacrifice and will hold dear to his memory. We learned that at 19 years old, Hardy was the youngest Tuskegee fighter pilot, when he completed the Army Air Corps pilot training program in 1942. He also earned his commission as a second lieutenant. He was among the first Black military pilots in the nation. He flew over 20 missions over Germany, and we're going to talk a lot about Germany today. Shout out to Pete. His own mama said he's trash Hegseth in this meeting they're pulling together. But the Tuskegee Airmen are a real reminder as to the lengths to which racism will really prevent you from being your best self. Because as you may recall, Americans were getting their behinds handed to them before the Tuskegee Airmen were allowed to fly. And they said, well, we don't want the blacks flying because if the blacks fly, then how do we be racist still? And that's largely what happened. They didn't want the Black people flying, just like they didn't want Black people fighting in the Civil War. And they was getting their asses handed to them then too, until the Black people was like, okay, we got this, we good. So we say until next time to two amazing ancestors, both Assata Shakur and Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. Also, a reminder that on this day in history, the state of Alabama had passed a law they wrote legislation into law that basically forbade white female nurses from working in wards or hospital rooms, either public or private, in which Black men had been placed for treatment or to be nursed. And so we were really at this, and that was on this day in history in 1915. So we're really not that far from when people were explicitly, openly, and happily allowing racism to just limit American life in so many ways. And we need to be aware of that because it is coming back. But what we learned from the Equal Justice Initiative about that event in the state of Alabama is that Jim Crow racial segregation, and this is again from the Equal Justice Initiative, Jim Crow racial segregation laws enacted and enforced in the American South codified strict boundaries of a legalized racial caste system and worked to restore and maintain white supremacy in the region. Even after the Civil War and Reconstruction amendments had ended slavery and declared Black people to be citizens with civil rights and the power to vote, many Southern states And local lawmakers passed laws forbidding black people and white people from playing checkers together, from swimming in the same pool together, from playing pool together, entering a circus through the same entrance, or being buried in the same cemetery. Racism is inherently stupid, and it's basically a way for wealthy white people to convince poor white people to work against their own collective economic interests so that wealthy white people stay wealthy. Poor white people feel good about being poor because at least they're not black. It's something y'all been falling for a really long time. You might want to figure it out because y'all about to get your asses handed to you. Oh, speaking of getting your asses handed to you because you refuse to vote for a black lady or somebody who was not white, and I know y'all be debating that, you should also be ready, America, to pay even more for everything, yes, but particularly for your pharmaceuticals. Y'all's president, who, again, has the economic understanding of a toddler high off of Gatorade, Mountain Dew, and a whole bunch of other sugary beverages that they should not be drinking. That is the level of economic prowess that y'all's president has. But he has announced that starting this week, October 1st, that America is going to impose a 100% tariff on any branded or patented pharmaceutical product, unless the company is building their pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in America. Now here's the thing. If we're talking about patented medicinals, the challenge with taking this on as it pertains to patented medicinals is that if it's got a patent, if it's a medicine that's still covered by a patent, ain't no competition. Right? We don't, because it's patented. There's no way for you to make that medicine cheaper by going to a competitor, because if it's still covered by a patent, they own it. And so what does that mean? That means that if you were paying $8,000 a month for your medicinals because you have some form of cancer, now that will be $16,000 a month, because 100% tariff, that means you pay them twice. You're paying for the product, but you're paying 100% more of the product. That means you're paying for it 2 times. I know math is not our American favorite subject, but you should just know that if you're paying 100% tariff on something, that means if this lipstick of this you see this is one of my favorite lip brands ever. You cannot see the name of the lip brand. I'm holding up a tube of lip gloss from the Lip Bar. I love the Lip Bar. Lip Bar, y'all should actually get at me. I would market y'all so well, because I have only worn the Lip Bar for years, namely because a year and a half ago I had to get Invisalign. I had retainers on. The Lip Bar, their mattes are amazing. Their glosses are amazing. They're an amazing company. They're black owned. I love them. But if I'm paying $10 for this gloss, and I paid more than $10 for this gloss, but if I'm paying $10 for this gloss and you slap a 100% tariff on the gloss, then I'm paying $20 for the gloss. That's how tariffs work. So if you're paying 100% tariff on something, you are doubling the price. Lip Bar, seriously, get at me. Like, have you seen my lips? Like I can do this for you. I promise you. I am such a fan of their product. I think they're an amazing lip company, or makeup face product company, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, that was an aside, and it was just a prop that I saw. It wasn't intentional. I'm just saying that if you are paying 100% tariffs on anything, you are paying twice for that thing. And it's starting on Wednesday, the 1st of October, which is the 4th quarter, right? We're kicking off the fourth quarter economically. That is going to be a real problem for a lot of people. And so now basically you're going to be paying twice for every drug that's not made in America. And that means most of the drugs. So good luck. Now, the other thing that we have to figure out, I shouldn't say good luck. That was cruel. No, cruel is what's happening right now. Good luck to all of us, because we're going to need it. What also is happening right now is the government is preparing to shut down. And again, I go into way more depth about this in the podcast episode today, but you should just know that this effort to shut down, with the added bonus that they want to also fire everybody who works for the federal government and fire them permanently, that is not new. That is a part of Schedule F. Remember, we have talked a lot about Project 2025. The first prong of Project 2025 was that 922-page playbook, which we here read on this show. A lot of people in America did not, but we did. Part 2 of the Project 2025 effort was basically they were gathering all those resumes. Remember the tens of thousands of resumes that we talked about? And they were training people. Remember we talked about they had the videos, they had the boot camps on. You could go on their site and you could look at all of the stuff that they were doing. Why were they training tens of thousands of people for jobs that did not yet exist? Because in prong 3 of Project 2025 is Schedule F. Schedule F is what Donald Trump tried to do at the end of his first term. It didn't work out so well. He's brought it back. And basically Schedule F will allow him to take everyone who is currently employed in the federal government, who is a nonpartisan civil servant, fire them, and then bring on those tens of thousands of people that MAGA has been training ever since 2023 when they first released Project 2025. Frankly, I think they've been training people way before that, because they knew what they was doing before they released it publicly. But Schedule F is here, and they are planning to basically shut the government down. And they're talking about, we're going to have negotiations, even though Donald Trump had told the Democrats, ain't no need to talk about it. We done, we out. And the Democrats are like, what you mean we done, we out? We got to talk. Like, why you want to shut down the government? Oh, now we know why you want to shut down the government, because you own the White House, Republicans. You own the House and you own the Senate. Senate. So you don't need Democrats for anything, really. They want to shut down the government because they want to finalize this particular component of Project 2025, which is my philosophy. I think we should just continue to watch this space, and we should really watch this space, because what also is happening this week, in addition to the possibility of a government shutdown, we also have this weird thing happening where all 800 plus members of the leadership of the United States military apparatus are gathering in these United States. Now, why do I know this? Is the real question. Why do you all know this? Why do we know this? Because P, his own mama say he's trash. Hegg says military is trash. And somebody leaked the memo, and apparently all of them are gathering this week. And I mean all 800 plus of them. Senior commanders of the 1-star rank or higher and top advisors have been summoned by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth from all over the world. They're coming together from all over the world. Now, this is a problem for a whole host of reasons, because, again, we know this, which means everybody else in the world knows this, which means if you had nefarious intentions towards the American military apparatus, similar to, you know how a couple of weeks ago we learned that there was another nation that was trying to intervene with one nation's genocidal activities in another nation, and that third nation had all of its negotiators in one space, and then the nation that was doing the genocidal acts bombed all of that. Like, it would be terrible for it, that was a terrible situation. But like the fact that we all know where they all gonna be and what time they gonna be there, like that, if somebody had nefarious intentions, that would be bad. And then y'all's president, who apparently didn't know about the meeting, at least he acted like he ain't know about the meeting. When they talked to him about it with the press, he was like, I mean, I guess it's a meeting, it's not that big a deal. Now he coming to the meeting, so everybody gonna be at the meeting. What could possibly go wrong? Other than the fact that this also feels eerily reminiscent to what happened in 1933 after Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Not that he was voted in, but his party was basically voted in, and they appointed him Chancellor in 1933. 4 days later, he's meeting privately with top military leaders, and basically to convince them to support him. And this was really important because the military back then had played a very significant role in German society, and they could essentially be a block to this new regime's effort. The military leadership at that time did not trust Hitler. They didn't trust him because he was a very populist and radical. He was seen as a very radical sort of figure. But the Nazi Party and the German military were in alignment when it came to their foreign policy goals. And so after this meeting, shit just started happening. Things just started falling into place. He was talking openly, Hitler, about his plans to establish a dictatorship. He was talking openly about reclaiming territory and land and waging war. And 2 months later, he's showing respect for the military. At that point, they are bowing to each other. They are happy with each other. So we should be concerned. We should be really freaking concerned. How's your passport application looking? Yeah. And I mentioned in the podcast, or rather I should say in the title, I was going to tell all of you about this latest edition of White Entitled and Empowerment and Incompetent, White Entitled and Incompetent Behavior happening out of the Department of Justice. We're really not going to have as much time to get into that as I wanted to, but you should just know that there is a vibrant discussion in today's podcast episode of one Lindsay Halligan. Lindsay Halligan is a lawyer who don't do things very well. She does insurance law. She does that one area of law. She has been an insurance lawyer. She has never worked on federal cases. Well, she's never tried a federal case. She has only worked on like a handful of them, like as not even like a lead attorney. And she is somebody who basically don't know how to file documents at the courts, but she is white and she is entitled. And based on how she tried to do this first filing, she is utterly incompetent. She was also a pageant winner. Nothing wrong with being in pageants, but she's pretty. In the white American sense of beauty, she's pretty. But she is the person who they were able to find who was going to levy these charges against FBI Director James Comey, despite the fact that all the lawyers who do this work, like the line prosecutors, the ones who like their career and their expertise is in how to engage in sort of these types of criminal prosecutions, they was like, you ain't got no case. There ain't no case. In fact, the reason Lindsay Hannigan had a position to fill is because the attorney who was in that position resigned before he could be fired by Donald Trump, because he was like, y'all trying to go after James Comey, Tish James, and all these black women and white men who has pissed you off, but you ain't got no evidence. They ain't did nothing. And so they left the Department of Justice. And Donald Trump was very unhappy about that until he could get Miss Colorado USA in here, because apparently if you want a job in the Trump administration, show a little and do a little, you'll be fine. But basically, she is now filing this case, but she sucks at her job already. She sucks at the job already. And as somebody said, well, how is she doing? Very WEI-ly, very white, entitled, and incompetently. And the judge in the case that she has been brought in to prosecute was like very confused because this woman done filed documents that contradict each other. She done filed documents she says she ain't filed, that she ain't signed, that she ain't never seen. And the judge is like, but your signature is on it, boo-boo. What is you doing? And she was like, wait, what? Huh? I don't, and that's basically what she was hemming and hawing in the courthouse. But this is who is now in charge of prosecuting James Comey. Unfortunately for her, she not only was the one whose signature was on the documents, which is an indication that nobody who was beneath her, none of her direct reports, were willing to sign their name on it because they actually have legal careers that they want to protect and move forward. But basically, we're in a situation right now where she is going to be facing one of the best defense attorneys when it comes to these cases. And I just suggest that you continue to watch this space. If you want to see what white, entitled, and incompetent looks like when it's a woman's version in the legal community, Lindsay Halligan is going to be first row. You're going to want to see that up close and personal. And I, for one, plan on making sure that you know all about it. All right. We got to go to commercial break. Mogul Mondays are kicking off. I'm very excited about this because Rick Martin knows things, and he's going to help us make sure that you all know things as well, because it's not enough to just acknowledge that hundreds of thousands of us are being fired. It's not enough to say that there is a bad unemployment situation out there. We're going to have to do the work of making sure that our communities are protected and that we have the resources that we need, which means we have to return to our business-minded ways. Mogul Mondays are here. We are heading into commercial break. YouTube, we appreciate y'all. Much more to come. Urban View.